Today, someone suggested that I was supporting nationalists in Wales and not nationalists in England. Well, I'm not particularly keen on the nationalist concept, but I'm certainly not anti-nationalist. I am, however, anti-racist. And Sarah Pochin, the Reform UK MP, who thinks it's better to be in Reform than in the Conservatives or whatever, she clearly has questions to answer. She said, "It drives me mad to see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, later apologising as poorly phrased." Well, yeah. Where Streeting called the comments a disgrace and racist and criticised Nigel Farage's silence, Zia Yusuf of Reform said she was right to apologise but defended the conversation about representation. The story has been widely reported and verified today. Nationalism, at its best, is attachment to a political community based on shared civic membership and consent, not blood. Ernst Renin's classic line is useful: "A nation is a daily plebiscite, a continuing choice to live together under common laws." That is civic nationalism. It is compatible with plural ethnicities. It's compatible, in fact, with plural language. Racism is the belief, explicit or implicit, that humanity can be ranked by racial categories and that some groups are inferior or less entitled to equal standing. Contemporary scholarship is clear that such hierarchies lack scientific basis, are morally wrong when they license differing treatments, and need to be condemned. They're not the same thing. One is about political belonging on equal terms, the other is about ranking human beings. There are rankers out there, many of them are called Reform UK. The nationalist of the civic kind says anyone who accepts the Constitution, obeys the laws, pays taxes and joins in the common life belongs. The racist sets ethnic thresholds for belonging or treats some citizens as less authentic because of ancestry or appearance. Renan's daily plebiscite is precisely the rejection of bloodline tests. A civic nationalist holds that equal civil rights apply to all members of the nation without racial caveats. Racism, by contrast, licenses unequal regard or differential treatment because of racial ascription, whether overt or coded. A civic nationalist is relaxed about how the nation looks in media and institutions because representation follows reality in diverse assemblies, diverse citizenry, diverse representation of subjects of His Majesty. A racist reading is triggered when visibility of minority citizens is treated as a problem in itself or as evidence that the average citizen is being displaced. Pochin didn't question any specific advert's message or merit. She objected to seeing adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, and said the average white family is not represented anymore. That complaint fails the representation test. It treats minority visibility as a grievance and implies a hierarchy of authentic faces for the nation's commercial space. That is why Streeting called it racist. Even the Conservative Shadow Home Secretary, after hesitation, concluded the way she put it was racist. Her explanation that the industry had gone DEI mad does not rescue the original claim. You can argue about advertising metrics, but once the emphasis is on annoyance at minority presence as such, you are no longer making a neutral criticism of ad buying. You are signalling that some citizens, some subjects are visually too present in public life. That crosses the line. That is racist. Civic patriotism sees the flag belongs equally to all citizens who help build the country and uphold its laws. Streeting's reminder about Commonwealth soldiers, Muslim, Sikh and Hindu alike, is historically accurate and morally apposite. If the flag is narrated as belonging only to some phenotypes, the story of the nation is narrowed into ethnic proprietorship. That is not nationalism of the civic kind, it is racial gatekeeping. Isn't nationalism always racial? Some people might say. No. Political theory distinguishes ethnic nationalism from civic nationalism. Scholars across traditions note the difference, and contemporary accounts emphasize the civic version as compatible with plural identity under a single constitutional roof. Is talking about representation automatically racist? No. It's legitimate to ask whether public images match social reality, provided you do not slide into treating minority visibility as inherently illegitimate. or as an affront to a purportedly more authentic racial norm. That slide is the problem here. Is calling out racism itself divisive? Calling out racism protects our civic conditions of equal membership. The aim is not to police speech for its own sake, but to defend the equal standing without which national solidarity cannot function. The British the British image is a plural image. Tie British belonging to shared institutions and responsibilities, not ancestry. Quote, Renan may be, speak the language of membership, not the language of blood. We need to guard the boundary between cultural criticism and racial grievance. One can criticise an advert's quality or message, but we cannot frame minority presence as an irritation. And we have to remember the telos, the goal of patriotism. The purpose is a larger we. The moment our rhetoric implies that some citizens count for less because of how they look, we have left nationalism and entered racism and prejudice. A nationalist in the civic sense says this country is a common project and every citizen is a shareholder. A racist says this country is a possession of my group and others are tolerated on sufferance. The first can bind a plural society, the second will break it. The Pochin episode shows how quickly rhetoric about what the country looks like can drift from a discussion about ads to a ranking of who counts, where Streeting is right to name that drift for exactly what it is. Nationalism, rightly understood, is a creed of equal membership. Racism is a doctrine of exclusion. And if you want to confuse them, then you corrode the very nation that you claim to love. That is the corrosion which is in evidence from Sarah Pochin, this Reform MP, the most recent Reform MP, I think, to be elected, somebody who defected from, I think, the Conservative Party to Reform UK, somebody who is among their ranks, and I think she exposes something which is fundamental to the to the Farage mission, or at least has been for a long time. It was there in UKIP because I saw it, I witnessed it, and it is here in Reform UK. I'm not suggesting that it is necessarily a fundamental racism, but it's an acceptance of racism. It's an acceptance of racist jokes. Well, he was just being funny. And it's an acceptance of racist observations. It's an aberration. It's fundamentally wrong. And it's not, it doesn't matter whether somebody apologizes for getting caught out saying it publicly. It doesn't matter. This is the inner identity of the project peddled by Farage again and again and again. And it's a project that says there's one sort of person who is superior to another, simply because of their colour, their origins, their background. We are a society that should pride ourselves on what we achieve. And at the moment we're not achieving enough.